Just a couple of things that I want to say before I start this video. First of all, I've got some links here I'd like for you to take a look at. HAARP, the electromagnetic waves, can be used to stimulate geo events. HAARP, weather modification, Air Force says it will own the weather by 2025. Chemtrail, Indigo pilot speaks out. Enlil's warning to Admiral Byrd of a dark horizon. Anyway, the best one here is the first one I'm going to put up, and it's Barshar predicting that if the woman is in, he doesn't say elected because he knows she ain't going to get in that way. But if the woman is there, it will be a guarantee of contact with the ELOHIM. The false gods from the false Bible. I mean, even they're saying, they're not real gods. Anyway, it's interesting because what I noticed was when I was watching Stargate SG-1, they're little green, gray men. That's all they are. They're just little gray men. Now, granted, some of them might be bigger, like reptilians. There's 7 different races of them. They're all reptilian. Now, I think they have a claim on this place. And I've showed you this before many, many times. When you go and you look in Genesis 1:15, where it talks about the sun and the moon, it tells you right there what's going on, people. Who the Elohim are. In other words, the archangels, the arches. Just saying. Anyway, he says that if Trump or the man, he won't say his name, gets in, that the U.S. will be destroyed and there'll be World War III. Now, there may be that anyway. Seriously, there may be that anyway. Because they want you to believe that their stinky butts don't smell. Pigs don't know that pigs stink, right? Anyway, more and more every day I see what's, actually happening and how they've deceived the masses to the point where, I mean, it's just ridiculous. So I'm going to cover this with you. This is a piece of the Bible, and it doesn't really matter which one that you get it from. You can get it from the Targum of Palestine if you want. For me, I like the there was a particular Bible that I liked the translation of, so I went with it. But I'm telling you, each one of them are supposed to say this, because this is what the majority of them say. But some of them try to, do a little, find the pebble. Anyway, it is what it is. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's not going to end until they're no longer here. It's just ready yourself for that, because there's just a group here that cannot tell the truth no matter what they do. And even if they tell the truth for enough to get your interest in what they're saying, that's just to get your interest so that they can continue to lie to you. It's really a disgrace. But they're diminished. They can't help it. Apparently, they don't know they stink. Okay? That's the problem. Anyway, I'm going to read this to you. This is from Genesis 18. Now, this is when the angels come and they meet Abraham before they go off to the 5 cities of the plain and destroy the 5 cities of the plain. You know, they had that big conversation about it. But what was interesting to me is when I read this, it told me exactly what they were eating. And this is important because we already know what the angels ate because we've read the Lost Book of Enki. So many times we can see that they're the ones that got able to feed them the baby calves and the baby lambs because that's how retarded they are. They're just not happy unless they're eating children. Doesn't matter what kind of children. And they did this throughout Babylon and all of that region. The 5 cities of the plain that were destroyed. Nineveh, all of, you know, what they're calling the Fertile Crescent, okay? Believe whatever you want to believe. Genesis 18 is there, basically there with Abraham. And I'm going to skip parts that to me are just not all that important. This is the most important part. And if you didn't pay attention, you would have missed it. Pay attention. And said, my Lord, if now I have favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree, and I will fetch a morsel of food, and comfort your hearts. After that ye shall pass on. And therefore are ye come to your servant. And they said, so do as thou hast said. And Abraham hastened into the tent unto Sarah and said, make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal and knead it, and make the cakes upon the hearth. So we know they're having unleavened bread, right? And it says, and Abraham ran unto the herd, and he fetched a calf tender and good, and he gave it unto the young man, and he hasted to dress it. In other words, to clean it and cook it. And he took butter and milk and the calf which he had dressed, and he set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. Do you understand the ramifications of this? So this is the proof that they are fallen angels. Now, granted, you can make a case that they're still up there with the, with the sun. The moon people are still up there with the sun. But by falling, see, here's what happens to a carnal man. This is what you haven't been able to get out of your wolves in sheep's clothing and out of your Catholic church, because these churches are for Canaanites, okay? For fanged humans. People that are more interested in eating rotten flesh, okay? They're not going to tell you any of this. They're not even going to answer questions about it. Trust me, I know, because I was in a church and I was there as a vegan. And I asked, why is everybody eating rotten meat? I don't get it. Are you guys not even reading the first page of your Bible where it gives you the provision for food? So apparently the angels missed that. They missed that memo, which is why they had Abel feeding them the same thing. Grain in the breads, unleavened breads, and young calves and young lambs. That's what they wanted to eat. It's what they gave continence to Abel, but not to Cain. Cain was clothing people with, cloth. Now, there may have been some extenuating circumstances and they knew some stuff. They certainly knew everything about Cain's father because they knew that that was not Adam's father, nor was Cain ever reconciled to Adam's lineage. If you will look at that, you will see. If you see the Anunnaki rock opera, you will see that they look like twins. Possibly they both did have black fathers, like Adapa and the white mother Titi, named after Tiamat, which was the original womb man. The Lucille Ball, whatever. Lucy. Anyway, Lulu, get it? Desi Lulu. We're going to find out all about what that is today, what a Lulu is today. It turns out they're organic robotoids. Just exactly like Donald Marshall described them, but they're actually here known as a very particular blood type, which is RHD positive. And the D, just so you know, is for the D that's right in front of the evil, devil. That's their children. They're 85% of this world. And another, 7-8% of O negative. Anyway, I'm just saying that's how it works. They're not going to recognize, see, this is the stance they're taking. They're not going to recognize out of their own book, the Lost Book of Enki, how hominids were used to blend people. They're not even going to acknowledge that. But anyway, you see that they're nothing but carnal men. So they can't be angels. You can call them angels. You can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. But they're not the angels that you think of. They are just spirit beings who are literally made from plasma, which means that they are the Holy Ghost. Because that's what ghosts are made out of, is plasma. Remember the plasma gun on Ghostbusters? Hello. Anyway, so just in case you missed it and you didn't quite figure out what I just taught you, in Genesis 19, they move on and they go over to Lot's house. So they go to Lot's house, and Lot wants to, he wants to wash their feet and feed them too. Because, it was a long journey from where Abraham was to where Lot was. So in Sodom, married to a Sodomite princess. Which explains why these men were going to be attacked. but they had special weapons that, it's all about the technology. See, that's why they're still here to this day. It's because they have technology. Let me tell you something. I've been hit with their directed microwave energy weapon, and I know now it's like the phasers on Star Trek. Okay? I know that it will stop you. It'll put you on your belly and have you crawling on the ground. Just telling you. So Genesis 19, it says here, I guess, this is 33. And there's, of course, a whole chapter. But this is the part we want to hear. And he says, and he pressed on them greatly. And they turned into him and entered into his house. And he made them a feast. And he did bake unleavened bread. And they did eat. And trust me, Abraham, Lot, you got to remember they had learned how to eat Nimrod's oven. Everything he cooked in his oven. So Abraham literally got put in one of those ovens and almost got cooked and eaten. You think I'm kidding? Go look in the book of Yasher. You'll see it. Anyway, so whenever I hear all these people talking about how angels are spirits and spirits are angels and no. Are there good angels? Let me tell you what a good angel would do. I want you to think about this. A good angel would not eat the flesh of an animal under any circumstances. Now, because of that diet, that angel is not going to have the lust for daughters of Cain. Okay? Now remember, the Rh negatives are blended with I'm talking about the A's and the B's. Now the O negative is a hybrid. They're not the same. And to prove it to you, the A and the B can be combined. Not the O and the A, or the O and the B in the same way. Oh, they would like for you to think that, but that's not how it works. There's antigens, and an Eldon card, which is what I use to find my blood type, is the easiest way to see exactly how it works. So if you hadn't gotten an Eldon card for like, I don't know, $14 on Amazon, where you drop your blood on it, just follow the instructions. It's that simple, really. If you are not Rh negative, you are Rhd positive. You have a D antigen on your blood. D. D for the D in the word evil. Devil. Do you understand? They can make it anything that they want it to be. They fooled you long enough. You are allowed to know the truth. That's all I'm saying. You don't believe me? Okay, I know some of you have friends and family. So do I. Anyway, I did find out for you that there are 3 types of mammoths that were in North America. They found them. They know about them. You know, I'm not making it up. The guy that did this story, Animals in the Book of Mormon, Challenges and Perspectives by Wade E. Miller. and Matthew Roper. Wade Miller learned an awful lot. Basically, his theory is that this is the Holy Land, not over there. It's here. Anyway, I'm not going to go through all of that right now. What I will do is quickly, I'll just do this real quick and I'll move on. That's where I made my mistake. That's okay. Okay. Okay, elephants, curloms, Cureloms, and cumoms, Cumoms. Says elephants, curloms, and cumoms. And just so you know, this is widely known, and these are also related to mastodon. Remember when we were looking in the book of Bird's diaries, you know, he saw a mastodon, a mammoth, a woolly mammoth. See, mastodon and woolly mammoth are not the same, but see, it's not clear here which ones are which, because again, Joseph Smith really didn't know. I mean, he translated, but he really didn't know what these animals were, okay, because they were long gone. Anyway, I'm going to skip on down here. I did do some work on book Placebo by Howard O. Pittman. I wanted to show you the farcical teachings of a wolf in sheep's clothing. Howard O. Pittman, interesting name. Now, he did draw a picture of the demon of greed in one of his books. On the front cover, he had either he did it himself or had somebody do it. And looks like Trump, I'm just telling you. Don't know how he could have known that all them years ago. But anyway, so somebody alerted me to something I had never seen before. And I'm just going to say that it's Raelism. Now, I never heard of it before. Of all the times I've been in my Urantia book, I've never heard not one time of this religion called Raelism. I knew about Billy, Meyer. This is a different dude. Anyway, I'm going to read to you from basically Wikipedia, and I may have some comments along the way. Raelism, also known as Raelianism, is a UFO religion founded in the 1970s in France by Claude Vourahan, now known as Rael. Now, the Rael is for like Israel, right? Because, he thinks he's a stepbrother to Jesus. Anyway, I'm going to read all that to you. It says, scholars of religion classify Raelism as a new religious movement. The group is formalized as the International Raelian Movement, IRM, or the Raelian Church, a hierarchical organization under Rael's leadership. It is considered a cult by the French and Belgian authorities. Of course it is. You'll see why in a minute. However, do not be surprised if these guys start showing up on the forefront with the United Nations if they're not already there. I mean, the way that the French president acts, and his so-called lifestyle and all that business, I would not be surprised if he wasn't highly influenced by these people. You'll see why. Raelism teaches that an extraterrestrial species known as the ELOHIM created humanity using their advanced technology. An atheistic religion. Now, that is, yes, it's probably true. But if you look in the Lost Book of Enki, he will talk about the creator of all beginning. They know that the creator of all beginning exists. They just don't have no relationship with him. Well, how could they? See, their idea of having your pineal gland, doing all the stuff that they do in their secret societies, you can get that done no matter what your diet is. You can get that done no matter how much boinking, daughters of Cain you do. Get it? None of that matters. Ooh la la. Poontang. Interesting. Now that I know the origin of Putin's name. Interesting. So it's an atheistic religion. It holds that the Elohim have historically been mistaken for little gods. Yep. How about that? They are admitting it. It claims that throughout history, the Elohim have created 40 Elohim/human hybrids who have served as prophets preparing humanity for news about their origin. Among them are the Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, with Rael himself the 40th and final prophet. Raelists believe that since the atomic bombing of Hiroshima in 1945, humanity has entered an age of apocalypse. Does that sound familiar? Raelians engage in daily meditation, hope for physical immortality through human cloning. Oh my goodness. I'm going to be back on Donald Marshall before you know it. And promote a liberal ethical system with a strong emphasis on sexual experimentation. Again, these are supposed to be the angels that are supposed to be pious men, but they're carnal. You get it? So that's what this religion is promoting. Everything Elohim. Let's look at what Bird and Enlil's conversation was about. It says, our interest rightly begins just after your race exploded the first atomic bomb over Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Japan. And it was at that alarming time that we sent our flying machines, the Flugelrads, to your surface world to investigate what your race had done. That is, of course, past history now, my dear Admiral. But I must continue on. You see, we never interfered before in your racist wars. And that's just not true. That is just not true. That is just not true, according to Enki's book. Admiral, but I must continue on. You see, we have never interfered before with your racist wars and barbarity. But now we must, for you have learned to tamper with a certain power that is not for man, namely that of atomic energy. I guess Enlil's concern about nothing will be held back from them at the Tower of Babel, it was realized on that day, right? Here's why. Pay attention. Our emissaries have already delivered the message to the powers of your world, and yet they do not heed. Now listen, it says now you have been chosen to be witness hear that our world does exist. Now that's at where? The navel of the earth. The flat earth hollowed out. And by the way, I was just looking at a fantastic, I may put this link up here for you too, where they show you where all the, caves are underneath the U.S., where all the federal lands are. But they show you where the caves are, the underground cities, and it's a lot of land, just so you know. So we'll never be free of these bastards, but at least they'll have to live downstairs. But the reason for all of this is because we brought you here, bird, so that you can tell them we exist, which of course he didn't because he was told not to, right? Same thing with Forrester, who was thrown out of a hospital window, right? Rael first published his claims to have been contacted by the ELOHIM in his book in 1974, The Book That Tells the Truth. He subsequently established an organization devoted to promoting these ideas, which in 1976 disbanded and was replaced by the Raelian Church, and headed the new organization, which was structured around the hierarchy of 7 levels. Now that's because, well, let's see if it tells you. Attracting more followers, the group obtained. No, it's not going to tell you. But it's going to come down to 7 races of reptilians, is what we're talking about. That's why they keep picking this number of 7, because it's 7 numbers of races of reptilian. It says, in 1998, Rael established the Order of Angels. Now listen. It says an internal all-female group whose members are largely sequestered from wider society and tasked with training themselves to become the Elohim's consorts. In other words, when they land, they're going to go and be their wives, or at least, I don't think they marry, or they marry whoever they want. Clearly, the Anunnaki did that, and they, have adultery with whoever they want, because clearly we saw that with, Dumuzi and his own sister. It's just a way of life for them. So it's kind of like what the Nazis were setting up in Germany, called the Virile Society, like Nazi Germany, where they had these, beautiful women that were set to be consorts for the, Elohim, who were just down the road, there at the navel of the earth, called the North Pole. Where Santa's supposed to be. In 1997, Rael initiated Clone Aid, an organization engaged in the research of human cloning, directed by Senior Raelian Bridget Boisselier. Okay? In 2002, the company claimed to have produced a human clone baby named Eve, bringing much critical scrutiny and media attention. The movement has attracted further attention through its public protests, endorsing causes such as women's and gay rights against nuclear testing. So they're deep, and when I say deep, they're deep into the cloning thing, because that's the technology that apparently they got from the Elohim. Now, they're not the only ones. The, Donald Marshall and his group under Canada, though there could be a connection, because this group was also in, I want to say, Quebec, located in Quebec in Canada. That's one of their world centers. Anyway, so it goes on to talk about the Elohim. The Raelism teaches that there exists an extraterrestrial species known as Elohim, and I've just written in here alien GREYS, because that's the main group. That's the ones that speak. And on Stargate SG-1, that would have been Thor, for those who are aware of that show. Rael has said that the word Elohim, which is used for capital G-O-D in the Old Testament, is actually a plural term, which he translates as those who came from the sky. And interesting, it actually, when you do it in the correct Hebrew, it's Allah Hey Yama. Allah Hey Yama. Just so you know, that's the word in the correct language of Hebrew. Rael calls individual members of the Elohim Eloah. Now, understand, this is Enlil, Enki, this is all of their family members, this is all the way up to Anu. He claims that the Elohim gave him the horrific, or rather honorific name, Rael, as a term deriving from Israel, which he translates as the messenger of those who come from the sky. So now these are basically white French people with just a little bit of dab of Islam in them. Okay? That's right, Spain and France. So this is from the Secrets of the Book of Enoch, and it says, and one from out of the order of angels, having turned away with the order that was under him, conceived an impossible thought, to place his throne higher than the clouds above the earth, that he might become equal in my rank to my power. Now, I don't know who this is, but it would be foolish to say that the sun, which is the personification of the creator of light, does not have a personality. So that's what I'm going with. The moon is clearly under the sun, clearly, because that would be the only way it would be able to cause what? An eclipse, if it even can do that. But it's not that far up, people. Enki and Marduk went there, and they hung out for, I don't know, a month. And when they came back, they were asked, is it inhabitable? And they said no. So the guy in the 50s that says it's a plasma ball, it turns out he's right. And one from out of the order of angels, I just want to make sure you know what this one possibly from the sun is speaking, when he's speaking of one of them trying to put their throne higher, which explains the Venus thing, right? And I threw him out from the heights with his angels. Now, says he was flying in the air continuously above the bottomless. And later, I'm going to cover what this same book also says about Lucifer and Diana. Okay? But just be aware I'm going to get there. So Rael claimed that he initially encountered these alien beings on the 13th of December, 1973, when he was 27 years old. And I'm going to skip around. It says, Rael did so, and the over 6 days Eloah explained to him, he brought a Bible back with him, the true meaning of its contents, revealing more about the Elohim's involvement in human history. In other words, mystery, 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 mystery school. See, you know, they're the only ones that can tell you. Used to be the Catholic Church, but you see, they know that the Catholic Church is going to be destroyed. So they got to have a different kind of church, which is going to be like a New Age church. We're going to talk about that. I've never heard of this church. I was thinking something else, but there's a whole lot of connections to this as I read through it. So the name of the book that he wrote about that encounter is The Extraterrestrials Took Me to Their Planet. Now look at what he says. He says, Rael added that he was contacted by the Elohim on the 7th of October, 1975, when they took him aboard the spaceship and transported him to their home planet, which would, of course, be outside the dome and the ice walls. Here, he was offered 6, listen, six biological robot women, Lulus, women, robotic, robotoid, clone women with which to have sex. Saw the Elohim create his clone and taught the techniques of sensual meditation. The scholar of religion, James R. Lewis, noted that Rael's account of encountering the Elohim was similar to those of the classic UFO contactees of the 1950s and 60s. Fire in the Sky and Communion are 2 great movies about that very subject, involving alien greys with 2 very different opinions about them. I recommend both if you haven't seen them. The Elohim are described as physically smaller than humans. Now, that's the first time you ever heard that. But if you will notice that in the Stargate SG-1, they did present themselves as large, hulking, basically what we would call Scandinavian men, tall blondes, and with the Viking regalia and all of that. But then when we got to see the true nature of Thor, we found out that it was just a costume, and that the real Thor was an alien grey. Well, there you go. With pale green skin and almond-shaped eyes, and divide into 7 different races. Raelians are forbidding from painting or sketching themselves. According to Rael, their planet is outside of our solar system, but within the Milky Way. I'm saying outside the ice walls. I bet if I pulled the book up, I could show you where they're from. So remember, there's 7 races, and all them places out there, they've colonized just like this place. You get it? It's not going to be all that much different from, Logan's Run, if you've ever seen that. That's another great movie. So anyway, it says, and that they had been estimated. All are regarded as feminine in manner. You see, the most feminine woman on the earth is 10% as feminine as the entire Elohim. They're not allowed to procreate. Many undergo sterilization operation to ensure this. Now, it's well known that they don't appear to have orifices. Maybe a mouth and a tongue, but there's no bunghole, there's no pee hole, okay? And so many people have said that they smell awful because they secrete, whatever food they eat. And they do this so they won't eat very much food. But I don't know how they're having sex unless they're doing it with their minds. You see what carnal men do, even without a pee-pee and a poo-poo? They have no orifice, so how is this possible? I guess with their minds. Rael also reports that the Elohim can communicate with humans because they understand all human language. It says years ago, the Elohim, 25,000 years ago, I don't think it's that long, the Elohim arrived at the earth and transformed it so that life could develop. It states that the Elohim used their advanced technology to establish all life on the planet. Now, establish it. There was already established beings here, hominids in, the land of Africa. And all of that has been proven. They've been found in caves. There's no denying that. Rael characterizes humans as biological robots. Well, guess what? We're not all biological robots. Some of us are Rhd positive. That's the majority. So when they're saying humans are biological robots, they're talking about that group that have been created and programmed by the Elohim. I don't doubt that. But if they dipped into the hominid DNA, then that creates a hybrid being. So which ones are those? Yeah. See, that's been my premise all along. So Rael teaches that the Elohim scientist responsible for creating humanity was named Yahweh. Now, I've written in here Enki and Enlil because wherever you go, you're always going to be told that it's one or the other. And in the Hebrew Bible, it says, when Moses is speaking to the burning bush, Ea, Asher, Ea. Well, that is that is your Aquaman, your merman up here at the top. That's Asher, your merman. And it's also holding the position of the fourth cherubim spot, which also gives you the 4 points, of the circle of the earth. So I'm just telling you how it's done. And all these names of constellations that the sun goes through, again, you heard me read the part where they're just flying above the, bottomless, making up stuff and, acting like they own this place. And though they did own underneath the ground, somehow we've all been put here so that we can mingle. Now, I'm not sure because it looks like the Bible is trying to teach the Israelites not to mingle their seed. with pagans and, Canaanites and so on and so forth. But clearly, that's a part of it. So what we've got here is Elohim scientist responsible for creating humanity was named Yahweh. Again, Enki, Enlil, or both, at whatever time they spoke. And that the first two humans to be created were Adam and Eve. Now that is Adamu and Titi. Then their bosses were created, Adapa and Titi. Was it Adamu and Timon? Okay. Raelians believe that there were originally 7 human races. Interesting. Modeling the 7 Elohim races. But that of the purple, blue, and green races have died out. Interesting. And I just want to, this is interesting for a lot of reasons, because whenever you go into the Targum, of Palestine, so when it's talking about, the woman beheld Samael, the angel of death, and was afraid that she knew that the tree was good to eat, and that the medicine was for the enlightenment of the eyes, and a desirable tree by means of which to understand. And she took of its fruit, and she did eat. So what she did is she is going to later admit that she was not only eating meat, but she was also wholly seduced. And that's what happens when you're a carnal man. So what they're doing is they're turning all the A's and B's into carnal men and women. See, they would have been more connected to the, we didn't start out being just 5%, talking about the RH negatives. We didn't start out that way. There was a third, and a third, and that, supposedly the devil took a third of the angels, but now it's like almost all of them. You get it? Now, how can that be? There's no scripture I know of that supports that, but we can see that those are the numbers that they want us to believe, whether they're true or not. So, in the eyes of both were enlightened. This is I'm not going to cover this because I always do. She did give to her husband, he did eat, and they had their twin. So Abel and Cain. Cain's going to be reincarnated as Canaan, who is absolutely a Canaanite. Get it? Later, so will Esau be. So they just keep cycling them through, and that's their game that they play. That game that's played under Canada with Donald Marshall, that's what they play. That's the game they're playing with us and with them. They play a higher game for themselves. And he did eat, and the eyes of both of them were enlightened, and they knew that they were naked and divested of their purple robe in which they had been created. So I'm just wondering, is there a connection to the different colored people? And I'm pretty sure there is. In believing humanity was created by the Elohim, and I don't believe that for a minute. I think what they did was they basically did the witchy poo thing that witches are known for. Witches don't make nothing original. All they do is they have a menu they follow, and they mix, boil, boil, toil, and trouble. You know, that's what they do. And that's what they did, trying to connect themselves with the hominids of this place in order to grasp a deeper foot inside the door here. That's what they did. And for many years, there were many A's and B's that were RH negative. But the result of what they have done here by ruining people, that's what they've done. In believing humanity was created by the Elohim, Raelians reject out in believing humanity was created by, I'm missing something. Oh, here we go. Reject Darwinian evolution and espouse creationism and intelligent design. Yeah, but that was before you ever got here. That was before you ever stinking got here. Now, how you got those secrets, I don't know. But you were not the first here. That is just not true. And people say, okay, well, reptilians, you know, they seem to be here first according to the Bible. Well, listen, just because the Canes write it down don't make it true. But one thing's for sure. The sun is above us. That is who we are. We are connected to the light of creation. They are connected to the plasma of creation. Just telling you. Raelians believe that accounts of gods in various mythologies around the world are misinterpretations of memories about the Elohim. What about the sun? I ask, because they conveniently forget anything which has anything to do with the sun. Ra, or Marduk, is not the sun. No matter how much he wants to be, he will never be. He is not the sun. The tale of Adam and Eve's expulsion from the Garden of Eden, recounted in Genesis, is, for instance, interpreted as representing humanity's difficulty transition from the Elohim laboratories to life on earth, where they had to become self-sufficient. The resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth, as presented in the Gospels, you know, the Roman Gospels, and described as representing how the Elohim cloned Jesus to restore him to life after death. So he could be Marduk, he could be Enlil, it could be Enki, it could be Ningishita. Ningishita is the only one capable of writing down their religion, and that's why he did it. Thoth says references to Satan are interpreted as referring to the chief of the group of the Elohim's planet who were opposed to genetic experiments on the earth, and who had argued that humanity should be destroyed as a potential threat. That's Enlil. Enlil is the one. There is no other. That's Enlil. So Satan is Enlil. And which makes sense because his daughter is, you know, Lucifer. According to the Raelians, the Great Flood narrative recounts an attempt by the anti-human aliens to wipe out humanity. It certainly was. But that humanity was rescued by an alien spacecraft, which provided the basis in the story of Noah's Ark. Well, In Inky's book, it's him. Of course it's going to be him in his book. Again, I'm going to say, just because they write it down doesn't make it so. Various figures who established or inspired religion throughout human history, including Jesus, the Buddha, Muhammad, Joseph Smith, are portrayed by the Raelians as having been guided by Elohim. These are characterized as being 39 prophets sent to humanity at various times. Each is believed to have revealed information to humanity that they could comprehend at the given time. The Raelism, therefore, emphasizes the idea of progressive truth. What about the hominids and the soul men? Truth. They're literally contractual obligated to a certain percentage to lie here, according to Hidden Hand, or at least not to tell the truth, which just doesn't seem to tear them up too much, which explains why they lie all the time. Rael claims that he is the 40th and final prophet of the Elohim sent because humanity is now sufficiently developed to understand the truth about Elohim. He initially claimed that he was chosen for his role because he had a Roman Catholic mother and a Jewish father, and thus an ideal link between two very important peoples in the history of the world. He added that he was also selected because he lived in France, which is the Elohim consider a more open-minded country than most others. Yes, they kiss with their tongues, don't they? So they're definitely more open. Anyway, so France is open. I do not know. I tried to find the connection between Basque and Berber people in that area. Could not find it. I'm not saying it's there. You're welcome to look. Please report back to me if you find something. Rael subsequently stated that these prophets are themselves the result of human brother breeding with an Eloah father, with the human mothers having been chosen for the purity of their genetic code, beamed onto Elohim spaceship, impregnated, and then returned to Earth with their memory of event erased. Let's welcome our fathers from space. That was the name of the book in 1979. Rael added that he was the biological son of Eloha, whom he first encountered Yahweh. He noted that Yahweh Enlil. Now notice we've already seen the parallel between the starting, date of this being by the Raelians and by what Enlil told Bird having to do with Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Indeed, we brought you here so that you could tell the world that we are here. So if they are here, from what I read to you earlier about Bashar's comment about Donald Trump, and, I guess their understanding is that if Trump gets in, it's because we don't want him. We don't want the Elohim. So they're just going to let the place burn because of Trump. Even though they have the power to stop it. They're not going to. Interesting. Not unless you do the mafia protection thing and give all your allegiance to the Elohim. He noted that Yahweh, Enlil, was also the father of Jesus, making the latter Rael's half-brother. In 2003, Rael publicly identified himself as, listen, we hadn't talked about this in a while. Some of you remember when I talked about this. As Maitreya. So this guy identified himself as Maitreya. Do you understand? This is turning out to be a bigger church than what I thought. You know, yesterday when someone brought it to my attention on the blog, so the prophesied future bodhisattva of Mahayana Buddhism. He maintains that he continues to be in telepathic contact with the Elohim, hearing Yahweh Enlil's voice guiding him in making decisions affecting realism. The religion also teaches that Elohim continue to monitor every human individual on Earth remotely from their planet outside the ice wall. This is done so that the Elohim can decide which individuals, listen, merit being offered the opportunity for eternal life. Oh, darn. Oh, darn. I guess I'm going to be left out of clone life. See, they're not going to tell you in this clone business. Donald Marshall told you. But you can see how retarded Oprah is getting, right? Day by day by day by day. She's doing retarded, stupid shit. So that's because she's been cloned so many times. You know, there is a limit to how many times you can be cloned. And that no matter who you are, they can't make you as good, especially when they make you fully human, adult, in what? A month? Which is one of the things that everybody wants. Anyway, Raelians believe that they are all capable of linking telepathically with the Elohim, but that only Rael is permitted to meet with them physically and receive their revelations. So apparently, he's going to be a big deal. Is that going to be your Antichrist? Throws a new name up there. That's for sure. Well, I'll read some more and you'll see where it's going. The age of apocalypse and the Elohim's return. Rael claims that since the U.S. military used the atomic bomb on Hiroshima in 1945, humanity has been living in the age of apocalypse and revelation. It states that the human species now choose whether to use science and technology to enhance life or to use it to bring about nuclear annihilation. Well, I don't choose nuclear annihilation, but I don't necessarily choose your technology either. So what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now, Elohim? Tell you what you're going to do. You're going to leave. You're going to go. You're going to get out. And by the way, take your dirt bags with you. They will live in an era of advanced technology in which society will be tolerant and sexually liberated. Ooh la la, Putin Tang. Rael claimed that he was destined to help lead humanity away from its path of destruction. Oh boy. Mm, mm, mm. Deception, deception, deception. According to Rael, beginning a peaceful age will cause the return of the Elohim to earth. He added that they will bring with them 39 immortal prophets whom they had previously sent to God. Now see, this is where they promise peace. You see? They're going to promise peace, but there will be no peace. They can't deliver it, because as long as their children are here, we will never have peace. Try to understand that. Rael stated that humanity was to build an embassy for the Elohim prior to their arrival on earth. Well, they're already here. What they're talking about is the Anu. You know, Anu, the father of the dirtbags. Rael stated that humanity has to build an embassy for the Elohim prior to their arrival on the earth, and that it must include a landing pad for the spaceship. He stated that it needed to be located on internationally recognized neutral territory so as to not indicate favor toward any one particular nation state. Initially, Rael sought permission to build in Israel, explaining this by reference to how the ancient Israelites were once in contact with the Elohim. He also stated that this embassy would constitute the third temple. So remember that. It's going to constitute the third temple, referred to in the Jewish prophecy. They built one, I don't know if you remember this, they built a New Age temple perfectly modeled out of Solomon's temple in Brazil. Again, these are the things I used to talk about, but see, they've flown by the wayside because nothing really ever happened with them. Well, we're going into high gear now. Something's got to happen. So now all their cards, they're going to be pulling out. So receiving little help for this venture from the Israeli government, Rael instead suggested that neighboring country might be suitable, proposing Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt as possible locations. And none of these governments or their countries were favorable. Senior people of the Raelian movement suggested, listen, I'm not telling you that that temple down in Brazil isn't one of theirs. I don't know. We should find out. I don't know. But what I can tell you is, listen, pay attention. Movement suggested Hawaii as a possible alternative. Now, is that not making sense now? And in 1998, Rael stated that he had received a new revelation from the Elohim stating that this location would be acceptable. So obviously, in Maui, why are they burning the people out of their homes? You know, why is Oprah and Jeff Bezos and all these, people there in Maui? You understand this is more than likely where this temple is going to be. It's either that or their fallback position could be Brazil. Makes perfect sense. The Brazilian people are so, flamboyant, and, they don't have no sex issues. It's a free and open society. They don't care about race. Anyway, so they managed to collect up 20 million in October of 2001. So no telling what they've got now. Okay, getting close to the end. I'm not going to be able to get very much further, but I'm going to try to get this. According to this system, only those who are 50% more intelligent than the average person will be permitted to rule when the ELOHIM get here. Anu. Enlil Enki's already here. Rael proposed, listen, this is the name for his system. Geneocratic system bears similarities with the style of governance that Plato promoted, listen, in his work Republic. Raelians thus reject democracy. Now, you heard this, because later in this Wikipedia article, they're going to be singing the other direction. I'm just telling you, and clearly we're seeing who Barshar, who is, channeling Elohim, is telling you who they're going to support. They're going to support the woman. Raelians thus reject democracy. Rael claims that this future society will have no war. That'll be the day. Because, again, the only way that can happen is if we're not here and there is literally no rights for us, whether we're here or not. And crime will have been ended through genetic engineering. In this future, Rael states, humanity will be able to travel beyond the Earth to colonize other planets. Yeah. Outside the ice walls. He claims that robots will assume menial tasks, allowing humans to devote their time to pleasurable pursuits. What would be those pleasurable pursuits? I'm sure that they're woke ideas, because that's all we're hearing. Elohim is sex crazed. He also argued that there would be a biological robot which would serve as sex slaves. I saw the Netflix TV show on this. The Russians have it. Akin to those which Rael states he encountered on his visit to the Elohim planet. He's talking about the sex slaves. Yeah, they'll serve as sex slaves. A single world currency introduced. I'm sure it'll be digital. It's right around the corner, people. It's coming. It's coming so fast it'll make your head spin now. As a prelude to the total abolition of money, while a unified world calendar will also be adopted. I wonder if that's my stinking calendar, because that's when I was way back when the so-called Holy Spirit was allowing me to know a thing or two. Now they just wait till the last minute and they just heap it on me, just like they've done now. Raelians reject the existence of the ethereal soul that survives physical death. and I've made a note here, only attained by diet and abstinence from drugs, poisons, and I've written here XES, Zeus, sex, and instead argue that the only hope for immortality is through scientific means. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Sure. Sure that is. No, I wouldn't buy it, people. I would not buy it. Though I would like to have some help from the sun. I'm talking about the real sun, not the fake sun, Marduk. The Raelians claim that the Elohim will clone and thus recreate dead individuals, but only for those particular individuals who they deem merit this recreation. In this, they believe in a conditional immortality, with immortality for a minority and oblivion for the majority. You see how that's going to work? See, that's you, RH positives, RHD positives. You're the organic robotoids that the Elohim created. With immortality for a minority and oblivion for a majority. There you go. The resurrection of Jesus, as recounted in the Gospels, is, for instance, explained as an example of Elohim cloning. Raelists advocate for the development of human cloning technology on Earth. Raelians also believe that deceased individuals can be cloned so that they could be tried and punished for their crimes. Like, for example, Oprah. You know, they killed her. Okay, so if that's true, and she's not running around by her clone, then they could dig her butt up and they could go ahead and try her if they hadn't already. So after the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attack in the United States, in which the attackers killed themselves, the Raelists proposed that they would be able to resurrect through cloning to be tried for their actions. It's going to be a lot of head cutting. Going to be a lot of clone head cutting, baby. You will see it. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. I'm so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside. There she is, the Gypsy Queen with her blazing guillotine. Emerson, Lake and Palmer. What, 1974? Due to its emphasis upon attaining immortality, Raelism deplores suicide after the Heaven's Gate group engaged in mass suicide. In 1997, because they want to sacrifice you like they did, back in the day before the flood. They don't want you killing yourself. They want to do it because that's what they do. The Raelian Church was among the new religions that issued press releases condemning suicide, as opposed to the scientific definition of reproductive cloning, which is simply the creation of a genetically identified living organism. Raelians seek to both genetically clone individuals, rapidly accelerate growth of the clone to adulthood through the process like guided self-assembly of rapid expanding cells, or even nanotechnology. Hello. Exactly what Donald Marshall was teaching. Rael told lawmakers that banning the development of human cloning was comparable to outlawing medical advance such as antibiotics, which is crap medicine, blood transfusions, which you should never get a blood transfusion. You should have your own blood stored in your own freezer, and you should not be taking other people's blood. And vaccines, all terrible ideas. You see, these are all their ideas. See, they're such geniuses. Hey, all terrible ideas. Now, morality, ethics, and gender roles. I'm going to look at this. Yeah, this is enough. I'm going to come back and do this again. Yeah, that's how I'm going to handle this, because I'm about an hour 26 into it. I don't want to make this any longer. So the thing about it is, clearly this is messed up, people. If you want to have the proper resurrection, you are going to have to become a person who does not eat rotten flesh or poisons. And if you become a vegan type person, you're going to find out you won't have no sexual desires. So that part will be taken care of for you. Now, it might take a little while, but it will work. It will work. So there you go. That's the story. That's my story to you. I don't recall. I could look it up. I just haven't had time to do all this work and do that today. I don't recall who gave me this, link, this information yesterday on the site. But you can see that it was a clever idea, whoever did it. So this, I would not be surprised, is going to be ground zero for Anu's landing. And it makes sense it would be in Hawaii, because we've been trying to figure out, why are they ruining so many people's lives in Hawaii? Why are they using laser burning weapons to burn them out? Why are they doing that? If they're so great. I'm talking about ELOHIM, who, by the way, Enlil has used a number of times, including Marduk, including Enlil's retarded sons, many times used weapons of mass destruction on human beings. If you want, when I'm done with this, I'll go back and show you. I didn't spend a lot of time on it at the time because I was looking at other stuff, but it's there. Enlil is a real bastard. So is Marduk. And even the, others are afraid of them because they're capable of, great terror. It's what they live by. Anyway, thank you very much for your time and your attention. I look forward to our next video.